Denathrius really seems to be returning, and every day we get just more and more evidence. It first started with the fact that he orchestrated most things happening in the World Soul saga, but now all of this is coming to an end. At the end of the Shadowlands he was freed, and he certainly wouldn't miss this finale of everything he has worked on for thousands of years. However, his Scourge is now becoming more and more relevant. We just got this really sus praise system which seems to be similar to connecting anima. Then Sylvanas just returned, talked about examining the Shadowlands further, and now a few days back we datamined a huge pack of cosmetics from mounts to transmogs, all with a Revendreth theme and everything being vampire related. Seeing how we predicted so many things by datamining cosmetics before, what is everything we know, and is really the return of Denathrius as good as confirmed? There are a lot of MMOs out there, but not many like the World of Sea Battle, an open world PvP MMO that perfectly captures the sea chaos, where you build your own fleet and you dominate the ocean. What really stood out to me is the progression system, because as you know, with MMOs, grinds can be brutal, but here you can already get a top tier ship in just a week or two. Of course, there are 50 plus ships, a bunch of upgrades, hundreds of builds depending on how you want to play, and you can be anything from a fast raider to a heavy warship and a pirate hunter. You'd be surprised how addicting the naval battles are. Best of all, they just dropped a new Horizon update with new wind mechanics, ship abilities, faction wars, and exploration quests, and of course, as with any MMO, you can join guild wars, conquer regions, and build your own trading empire. So if this is your jam, I've got great news for you. If you use my link, not only can you try it for free, but you will also get 5 days of Captain Seal for 40% XP and gold plus 6 extra ship slots. Click my link and see you on the seas. So we just got some really interesting news that you might have seen from a few days back, showing a whole lot of new datamined Revendreth and Vampire stuff, which came out of nowhere kinda. I mean, as you may know, Shadowlands was like 3 expansions ago, and we are not even doing anything with vampires or Revendreth right now. But if you guys follow the other hints, there is actually a lot that is going on behind the scenes that I've been talking about for a while now. So right off the bat, to explain the context of what is currently going on, a few days back we actually datamined all these assets, which appear to be mainly cosmetic stuff, but it's much more than that. It's not just one trading post item, we're talking about a full-on like Revendreth vampire theme with a tomb-like mount, Vampire and Revendreth inspired stuff for player housing, full-on Revendreth transmog, bats, and even like these red water elemental customizations. And the community got mostly disappointed because all this appears to just be exclusive for the Chinese market, and it's not actually coming to retail. For Blizzard, you know, China is a big market that they left for a while and recently returned, but personally I think there is more to actually consider with all this new datamine stuff. Some information that is kinda going around is that this might be exclusive for a year for the Chinese market, and then later it will be available globally. But what I want to talk about here are not these datamined items, but I think these items are just a hint. And no, it's not reaching to draw conclusions from cosmetics, as we can datamined multiple expansions through items like these, pretty much like a whole expansion earlier, so we're kinda at this stage in Midnight right now. Like we had all this dragon related stuff that predicted Dragonflight a while ago, then we had that Kazakar Griffin that got us to predict the War Within and the Earthen, and we pretty much constantly discover some sort of like new content through cosmetics. Not all the time, of course, sometimes there really is not many things to consider, it's not really much deeper, but it is a decently reliable thing. Now, realistically, I don't think Blizzard decided to suddenly make a whole bunch of Revendreth assets in the middle of the World Soul saga for no reason whatsoever. In a vacuum, it makes no sense. I mean, right now we're dealing with a Void invasion, why are we even thinking about Revendreth? But combined with other hints, it makes so much sense. Long story short, but there have been so many hints of Denathrius returning, and it just keeps piling up, like one bit of evidence after the other. If you guys followed my channel, I've been talking about this Denathrius stuff for years at this point. The main reason being that it's Denathrius that created the Scourge, which is still active, and also that Denathrius foreshadowed his return. I mean, he pretty much escaped at the end of the Shadowlands and we never got a follow-up, and in that scenario where he activated his Dreadlords, I mean, we essentially lost that battle. Since then, there has been no word of him other than like a few Dreadlord hints. Seeing that this guy was behind most of the happenings in the universe, it just wouldn't make any sense that he would not be present at like the grand universe-shattering moment moment that is about to happen in the World Soul Saga. However, that was just a possibility, a bit of a speculation that is covered by common sense. However, things started getting more and more interesting in Midnight. Now, I've covered this about a month back, but we got some oddly suspicious hints with a guy called Astalor Bloodsworn that is behind this brand new prey system in Midnight, which is this new mechanic. Essentially, this guy set up like a completely gray area, like this half-legal system where we are hunting enemies and extracting their essence, known as anguish, and then delivering it to him in his sanctum, which is suspicious enough in Murder Row. Like, the whole thing is sketchy from the beginning, but the most interesting thing that led people to speculate is that this anguish that we're collecting, like this essence, is oddly similar to anima and especially Revendreth stuff, like way too similar. It sort of functions in the same manner as well, and the whole thing seems like we're just like gathering this stuff to power our weapons, but the real goal is that he is collecting it for like another completely different purpose. Now, you could of course say this is just Blizzard reusing assets, but it's important to note that this is Astalor Bloodsworn, Magister Astalor Bloodsworn, who used to be like the right-hand man of Kilda Sunstrider and the one who founded the Blind Knight Order. He's also the guy that figured out the entire ciphering of the Naru that Blood Elves did for a little bit. Now, if you may remember, Kildas was a very relevant character in the Shadowlands. He was actually redeemed back in the Revendreth, and in the Shadowlands, I mean, his return seemed very possible. So this Kildas loyalist, in the midst of this chaos, suddenly starts collecting anima-like energy from enemies. Sure, it could be a coincidence, but it just seems way too connected. Now also, in Midnight, we got a group of the Twilight's Hammer that served Zeltad and was then abandoned by them, and then they decided to go rogue, and they took over a part of the Scourge in the former Ghostlands and started kind of like void corrupting them. Not really that big of a questline, but it made the Scourge once again very relevant, and if you remember the recent interview from a few months back talking about the Last Titan, they mentioned the Frozen Throne being relevant. Now, with all this evidence I mentioned, I mean, Blizzard suddenly draws a whole vampire Revendreth-inspired pack, but for Chinese servers, I don't know, honestly it seems way too random, like they may already be working on these assets and they decided to kind of monetize them right now for a different market. It happened a bunch of times in the past, I don't see why it wouldn't happen now. Like, these China exclusive cosmetics do seem to have like possible exclusivity, but only for a certain amount of time, which means eventually they could come to retail globally. But the most important thing to keep in mind is that Sylvanas just returned like a month back as well. I mean, in the prequel to Midnight, she literally told us the Shadowlands may be fake. I mean, we literally went to the Shadowlands in the prequel to Midnight, and now she returned to like one-shot Zeltad and then told us that she's going to get to the bottom of what the Shadowlands are, clearly indicating that the Shadowlands are going to be very relevant soon. I mean, this means that combined with all these like Shadowlands-based cosmetics, and keep in mind, these are not Maldraxxus cosmetics we got, this is Denathrius' realm Revendreth, with a giant pack of new stuff from player housing to transmogs and mounts. Honestly, it just seems like things are constantly adding up. Like, if you get to the details, most of the things the jailer got flack for was actually the doings of Denathrius. The entire ordeal of how the jailer controlled everything and created everything that ever happened was kind of falsely attributed to him. I mean, Shadowlands did clearly state that Denathrius was behind the most of these things, most of the manipulation. I mean, his creation, the Nathrezim, were literally built as like this secret service of the Revendreth. He had to exile them because of the civil war that happened in Revendreth, and since then he used them to manipulate Sargeras, who is now going to be relevant. He also used them through the Legion to create the Lich King, which impacted the entire world, and by all accounts, Denathrius is the true architect behind the creation of the Undead Scourge and most things that happen. The most important thing though, we defeated him and trapped him in the sword. He called upon his dreadlords who then freed him. The story ended here, and literally we never actually followed up with this guy. I mean, just think about it, just think about it logically. If he really was behind corrupting all these forces and is now free, now in the World Soul Saga, in the Last Titan, is honestly like implicated that the whole universe is going to come to an end in its current state, in a way. I mean, we know the Void is already here and is triggering everything. There are hints of the demons and the Burning Legion returning. The Titans are confirmed to return any moment now. The Scourge is going to be relevant. So with Denathrius free, it literally wouldn't make any sense for him to not show up. Like, really, he orchestrated all this stuff only to do something else, when finally, after like thousands of years of plots and schemes and manipulations, this is all coming into like one giant culmination. I don't know, but so far there are just too many things happening at once for it to not be real. Even the Beware the Eyes of Green and the Harnir, which is yet another potential Dreadlord infiltration. So now with all these cosmetics that are suddenly coming out, I think they really are finally setting up his return. Thanks for watching. Check out why Sylvanas really returned as I discuss more of what I just talked about in this video by clicking on the screen, and subscribe to my brand new Witcher lore channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!